check out this tweet from Bibi Netanyahu. And he says, Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted friend of Israel. He fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. Civilization? Yeah, civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. That is the words of Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. Once again, Charlie Kirk was pushing back on his support for Israel. All right, we're going to remove that off the stage, and we are going to continue with Bibi Netanyahu. We're going to continue with Bibi Netanyahu and Charlie Kirk. And we're going to go into the Fox interview that he did. And also, I feel like I've left one piece of video behind, and I'm realizing it now. I wish I'd played it before, but this is my show. I can do what I want. So I want to actually go back to this video. This is where one of the reporters was talking about this intervention that took place with Charlie, and how Bibi Netanyahu got involved in all of this. So here is that news reporter talking just about that intervention and what Charlie was facing in those moments.
September 12th report, which provided background about the pressure, the mounting pressure that Charlie Kirk was under from pro-Israel forces, from Netanyahu's cutouts in the United States. I gathered more details. The piece, it hit like a sledgehammer. It really caused a lot of, I think it spoke for a lot of people, particularly within the conservative movement, which is changing among the youth on the question of Israel. And more people started coming out, and more people started talking, and people were talking to me. And these were people who had knowledge of a tumultuous, stormy meeting held in the Hamptons during the first week of August, convened, according to multiple sources, with knowledge of this meeting, intimate knowledge of this meeting, by the billionaire ultra-Zionist financier Bill Ackman, who is close to Netanyahu and his kind of network in the United States. Charlie Kirk was summoned along with an array of young, sort of vapid, very avaricious conservative influencers who seem to be sort of in Israel's back pocket to set a very pro-Israel tone for this meeting. And Charlie Kirk was, according to one source, hammered by Ackman and others for allowing Israel critics, very prominent conservative voices like Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, or the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith to appear at his events. And actually, Charlie Kirk was planning to host many of these same figures again in December, and he had just added to his TPUSA major, I think it's called America Fest in December, the premier critic of Israel in Congress. I didn't say Republican critic, I just said premier critic, because that's what she is now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which really reflected his shifting views. And Ackman, according to multiple sources, had this meeting to basically bully Charlie Kirk into submission Charlie Kirk walked away, according to one person, feeling like there was an attempt to blackmail him. He refused any offers of funding and also refused the offer to travel to Israel and meet with Netanyahu, which Netanyahu disclosed in the immediate wake of Netanyahu's death. He talked about this letter, but he didn't say whether Charlie Kirk refused or accepted. I've learned since that he refused.
Okay, so what he just it's happening. Remove. So what he has essentially said, this reporter, is what we've been talking about, what Candace Owens said, and everything that we've been piecing together in reference to this intervention. And so now he mentioned Charlie was not, he was summoned to this thing. He was not really comfortable in this space. And again, friends of his were there to try to coerce him into doing whatever it is, to bow, whatever it is that they needed him to do. And so friends were there to influence him. And I don't have the clip here with me, but there's a clip where he had a conversation with Megyn Kelly. I actually do have it, but I just have to, I have to go pull it up. Where he's talking to Megyn Kelly in reference to now that he has become enemy number one because of his stance and what he is standing up for, his morals. He said that his morals are being challenged right now. His integrity is being, they're asking him to compromise these things, and he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to bend the knee to these leaders, if you will, for the Jewish, well, maybe we shouldn't say Jewish, but for Israel. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to tie in. How do we tie in Bill Ackman, Charlie Kirk, and Benjamin Netanyahu? How does it tie back to all of them? So now what I'd like to do is I would like to bring on Bibi Netanyahu and his Fox interview where he talks about this letter with Charlie Kirk. And so I'm going to do that right now, and let us bring that on. So what we're going to bring on now is BB. So people do want to know, is Israel involved in all of this? Could Israel be involved in all of this? In the execution of Charlie Kirk? Now, it's no secret, I believe, that Candace Owens has talked about the execution, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And she alluded to that one of the reasons Kennedy was assassinated is because he was not in agreement with some of the things that Israel wanted. And so he did not want to do business with them in reference to some subject I can't think of right now. And so, he was publicly executed, as we all know. And then later on, the new president that took office essentially gave Israel exactly what they wanted. So my point is that in this moment, reflecting on public assassinations, public executions, according to Candace Owens, this could be a pattern here for Israel. I'm just saying. Could be a pattern here. Taking people out publicly to silence them. That's my own thoughts. Thank you very much. So now what I'd like to do is we're going to bring Bibi Netanyahu onto the stage, and his interview with Fox. And here it is.
You have your own memories of Charlie Kirk. Please share them.
Well, Harris, before I do that, I have to say that we're just heartbroken. Myself, my wife, my family, my son, actually, on his 2019 visit to Israel, had lunch with him and his wife, Erica. We're shattered first as human beings because a great human being has been taken from us. He was an extraordinary friend. He said, he wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization. A few weeks before the tragedy yesterday, I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel. And sadly, that visit will not take place. But he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here. He valued our bond, the bond between America and Israel. He did so many things to defend free speech. He had his truth. He stood up for it. But he said, you can come and debate me. He invited that debate. He certainly didn't invite the violence, the horrible violence that tried to silence him. And, this is a worldwide problem. The people on the extremes, the Islamists, the radical Islamists, and their union with the ultra-progressives, they often speak about human rights. They speak about free speech, but they use violence to try to take down their enemies, whether it's President Trump, who's been almost assassinated twice, or, they try to kill me here too. But they got Charlie Kirk, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, the young people in both our countries look to him, and I don't know what is being said with regard to that right now in Israel, but I am curious. I mean, he is a beacon for so many in his young generation. Your last quick thought.
Look, sometimes people can be irreplaceable. Charlie was 31 years old. He was a great hero of our common roots and common culture. My older brother, was 30 years old when he died trying to successfully rescuing Israeli hostages that were held by German and Arab terrorists in Entebbe, Uganda. And I often I thought about my brother all my life, and I think of Charlie, and I'll be thinking of Charlie all my life. They're gone, and maybe they're once in a generation, but generations then live by their legacy.
Amen to that. Prime Minister Netanyahu, grateful for your time today and your memories and your love for Charlie Kirk. Thank you.
Thank you, Harris.
Okay, so that was Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's remove him off the stage. Where is he? There we go. So yeah, that was him, and he had that letter that the reporter talked about, and how he just read just one little part of it, that Charlie was in support of Israel and the common bond and all of these things. But What about the rest of it? What about everything else that he said in that letter? Again, I know you're going to pull out what's going to make you look good, make you look well, but in the full context of it, I think Candace Owens might be onto something that we should be able to see the whole thing. Now, she tweeted this recently. Here's her tweet. She says that Bibi Netanyahu lied about the contents of the letter Charlie wrote to him in May. It was a lie by severe omission, and it isn't sitting right with me. She said he held the letter in his hand and propagandized it. He should publish the entire thing. Now, I'm in agreement there, because if you're going to show or talk about it again, because we all know that Charlie was pulling away from his support for Israel. We all know that he'd been persecuted recently because of it. We all know that Bill Ackman came in as the hammer to get him to change his mind. We all know this. Charlie wrote that letter back in May. And that hammering of Bill Ackman happened just in August. So Charlie had been moving away from this. And for him to come out here and read just that snippet of the letter without reading the whole thing in its full context of what Charlie was really saying, he may have said these things, yes, but it's in the context of how it's being presented right now to we the people. That may not be all honest, right? May not be all honest. So that is what Candace Owens is saying. And, I think to agree with that, you should really release that letter in its full context so we truly understand exactly what Charlie Kirk said. So next, I would like for us to go. We're going to continue with Bibi and Charlie, because it's important, because he was posed a question. I think it was Newsmax who posed the question and said, it's roaming around the internet. Did you have anything to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination, his murder, his killing, his execution? Did you have anything to do with that, baby? So here it is.
But some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder. And, I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to, make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing it's not only insane, I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this. But they go, they have no limits. When you hate Jews, when you hate the Jewish state, you're willing to say anything and promote all these absurd rumors. And by the way, they're willing to kill us all the time. I mean, that's what they're doing. And over the centuries, when Jews, especially in the Middle Ages, the horrific Middle Ages, the worst things were said about Jews you couldn't possibly believe. We were poisoning the wells. We were drinking the blood of Christian children. You name it. I mean, these things, that continued actually up to the Holocaust. The Nazis said the same thing. We're carrying vermin. We're spreading disease. And people believed it. And every time they believed it, this was a prelude to a greater and greater massacre, culminating with the worst massacre of them all, the Holocaust. Well, since then, we've learned when people spread these lies about us, prepare yourself for the assault. And, they're trying to delegitimize the state of Israel. Charlie Kirk said to me that he wrote me this detailed letter. You have to fight the slander. These untruths, these vilifications have consequences. And he was right. But I'll tell you one thing. We're fighting on the battlefield against the terrorists and winning. And he was fighting on the battlefield of ideas. And I think he was winning. He was going to win. That's why they shot him. I hope they don't silence him. I don't think people will give in to these ridiculous, ridiculous lies.
Okay. So my thoughts on that. The fact that he started off by going to the far extreme to debunk it. What did he say? Something about the moon or something he said? Right then and there, for me, making it seem so ridiculous kind of actually makes it valid. And then the fact that he goes back into the centuries and pulls out all of the, these narratives, oh, we're drinking the blood and these things, and, him going there. For me, I said, okay. He says he calls it all kinds of ridiculous, that it's absurd, it's ridiculous. How can this be? We could never do that. And then he goes into all of the backstories. Oh, the Jews, we've been persecuted. Oh, the Jews, they said we were bringing disease. Oh, the Jews, they said they hate us, they hate us, they hate us, they hate us, they hate us. Therefore, it's ridiculous that we could even do something like that. Because of his response, I'm like, interesting. Interesting that his response was to defend or put Israel out there as a victim by pulling in things from the past to sort of say, yeah, we're not involved in this. We couldn't possibly be doing this because we've been persecuted. So we shall see how all of this plays out and goes on. What else do I have right now? I think what I do I have one more clip of him? I think I got them all. I think I got them all. I had a couple of tweets in reference to the reporter talking about you know what, let me pull them up because I have them, might as well throw them in. Okay, here's what it said, the Greystone. Now this was the reporter who just talked a little bit about what was going on with the intervention. And so here's what he says. He says that a Trump insider and longtime friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the assassinated conservative leader turning point on Israel influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. This is Charlie Kirk, angry and afraid. The source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. Charlie Kirk rejected an offer earlier this year from Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a massive new infusion of Zionist money into his Turning Point USA organization. America's largest conservative youth association, according to longtime friend of the slain commentator speaking on the conditions of anatomy. I can't see it. The source told the Gray Zone that the late pro-Trump influencer believed Netanyahu was trying to cow him into silence as he began to publicly question Israel's overwhelming influence in Washington and demanded more space to criticize it. In the weeks leading up to his September 10th assassination execution, Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader, regarding him as a bully. The source said Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personnel decisions and weaponize Israel assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. And it continues, and we will put the other part of it up. And it says, according to Kirk's friend who also enjoyed access to President Donald Trump and his inner circle, Kirk strongly warned Trump last June against bombing Iran on Israel's behalf. Charlie was the only person who did that, they said, recalling how Trump barked at him in response and angrily shut down the conversation. The source believes the incident confirmed in Charlie's mind that the President of the United States had fallen under the control of a malign foreign power and was leading his own country into a series of disastrous conflicts. By the following month, Kirk had become the target of a sustained private campaign of intimidation and free-floating fury by wealthy and powerful allies of Netanyahu, figures he described in an interview as Jewish leaders and stakeholders. He was afraid of them, the source emphasized. So, again, the reporting that was done by this
September
person
12th report, which provided background about the pressure, the mounting pressure that Charlie Kirk was under
the gray
from
zone.
pro-Israel forces, from Netanyahu's cutouts in the United States. I gathered more details. The piece, it hit like a sledgehammer. It really caused a lot of, I think it spoke for a lot of people, particularly within the conservative movement, which is changing among the youth on the question of Israel. And more people started coming out, and more people started talking, and people were talking to me. And these were people who had knowledge of a tumultuous, stormy meeting held in the Hamptons during the first week of August, convened, according to multiple sources, with knowledge of this meeting, intimate knowledge of this meeting, by the billionaire ultra-Zionist financier Bill Ackman, who was close to Netanyahu and his kind of network in the United States. Charlie Kirk was summoned along with an array of young, sort of vapid, very avaricious conservative influencers who seemed to be sort of in Israel's back pocket to set a very pro-Israel tone for this meeting. And Charlie Kirk was, according to one source, hammered by Ackman and others for allowing Israel critics, very prominent conservative voices like Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, or the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith to appear at his events. And actually, Charlie Kirk was planning to host many of these same figures again in December, and he had just added to his TPUSA major, I think it's called America Fest in December, the premier critic of Israel in Congress, I didn't say Republican critic. I just said premier critic because that's what she is now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which really reflected his shifting views. And Ackman, according to multiple sources, had this meeting to basically bully Charlie Kirk into submission. Charlie Kirk walked away, according to one person, feeling like there was an attempt to blackmail him. He refused any offers of funding and also refused the offer to travel to Israel and meet with Netanyahu, which Netanyahu disclosed in the immediate wake of Netanyahu's death. He talked about this letter, but he didn't say whether Charlie Kirk refused or accepted. I've learned since that he refused.
Okay. So what we're going to assume in this moment is that this Charlie Kirk execution, we all know that there are bigger players in this thing. This kid, Tyler Robinson, he's probably just the person who's going to take the blame for all of this. And there's bigger fish to fry, friends. There are bigger players in this thing. And we do not trust the government. We do not trust anyone in this matter. And I do believe investigations should definitely happen, at least for Bill Ackman. I believe he should be investigated. I believe all of these people need to be investigated, because if Charlie Kirk was turning away from these things, I would say, could that I'm no lawyer, but could that possibly be motive? Could that be motive? Because tainting the Jewish name or the Jewish religion or the Jewish people or the tainting them in a bad light is bad for business. We've watched for years as they try to take down Candace Owens. We watched forever. Anybody who has anything to say in reference to Israel, that there are consequences. And they call you all kinds of names. And at the top of that is anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. Anti-Semitism is what they say. You can't say anything wrong about Israel, not their policies, not their war tactics, not anything. You're not allowed, because they're Israel. They are God's chosen people. Therefore, they are protected. They are covered. They have never done anything wrong when it comes to the Lord. Jesus in particular, they've never done anything wrong to Jesus. Now, have they? Have they, friends? So we're going to leave it there. And we can chat it up in the comments once again. And I look forward to having this conversation again in reference to where we are, what happens with Bill Ackman, what happens with Bibi Netanyahu, what happens with Candace Owens, and what happens with this investigation, Tyler Robinson, what happens with Tyler Robinson's father, who may be getting this over $1 million, money and things like that. So lots happening, friends. We've got to keep our pulse on it. We've got to keep our ears on it. We've got to keep our eyes open, keep our ears open and focus on what's happening, because we do not want chaos, because they're feeding us so much and we don't know what's true, what's happening, because we're confused about everything. And friends, that is exactly what they want. So